I think that's a very good question for me because I am bicultural. My mother is Australian and my father is Indonesian. So from a very early age, we were taught to appreciate very much our Asian heritage. So I grew up doing Indonesian dancing, and I also learned Indonesian at a very early age. So for someone like me, culture and especially, cultural heritage is very important, and I think you need to be proud of it. And especially if you are a mixed culture, you need to embrace as much of it as you can. I think it makes you a rounded person, a more interesting person, and it gives you a lot of satisfaction too. Well, Indonesia is such a diverse nation with so many ethnic groups and so on, yeah. But certainly through the art and culture of all of these different ethnic groups, you can really understand more about, if you like to call it, Indonesian civilization, or about its people from Sabang to Morocco. And I think there's a certain amount of truth in that. Yeah. I think heritage is really a combination of everything. It's like a melting pot, yeah. Certainly there's an aspect of legacy, yeah. When we talk about heritage, it's not something that happened yesterday. It's looking back over centuries, yeah. It's what helps to identify a country, like in Indonesia. When you think of Indonesia, you think of gamelan, yeah. You think of exotic food, beautiful scenery. You think of a lot of the wonderful temples that there are, and the textiles, yeah. And all of this is it's part of of heritage, of what has come into existence over many centuries and continues to be identified with a country. Like what we're trying to do at the Indonesian Heritage Society is to try to showcase a lot of Indonesia's cultural heritage, which covers its dance, its textiles. We've got a very strong textile group. Tonight we had to talk about its films, yeah, its literature. Yeah, we have a literature group too, where we read Indonesian literature in translation, because that is a window also to Indonesia's history, to its people, the way Indonesians think, yeah, all of those things. Oh, I think it's very important, and I think that to be a well-rounded person, I think you need an appreciation of the arts, of history, all of those areas, and you can still major in management or business or things like that. But I think it makes you a very, unexciting person if that's all your focus on, business and money and so on. If you understand about your own heritage and about, the customs, traditions and so on of other countries, surely that is better overall, and maybe better for world peace too, if you understand about religions, you see. When I went to university, a lot of us actually studied arts, and it covered a whole range of areas, from philosophy, you could study various languages and so on. And I think that in those days anyway, it was very popular, but now people seem to be steering to those areas which they believe are going to generate a better or a higher income. It may sound rather simple, but I'm fascinated by batik. Batik is, it's not just, colours. I mean, I'm wearing a modern version tonight. It's not just colours and dots and so on, It really shows the soul of Indonesians, and you've got different motives which have a greater significance. And, the history of batik goes back so far. And one of the things that worries me is whether the younger generation here are going to retain an interest in batik, yeah, because a lot of imports now from other countries and a lot of different types of dress and so on. I mean, the Kayan Kabaya is also now very modernized. But if you ask me, my passion is batik, and most of my clothes are batik, because I do appreciate the work that goes into it. And I always go to the arts and crafts exhibition because I like to support the artisans, you know, all of the work they put into it. And I think it worries me a bit that maybe appreciation for this type of thing may die out with the modern generation. I hope not. So I love Indonesian textiles, but particularly batik, because I appreciate the effort. And, you know, in many parts of Indonesia, these textiles are still painstakingly made, you know, with very simple types of machinery. It's marvelous.